The general theme is how does it feel to be a hypocrite?
Right. Well, he sounds like a royal dirtbag.
I was wrong about something.
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!
If we can be with ourselves, if we can understand ourselves, we can love.
It's not my fault nobody can understand what you're saying.
Let's go while we're young.
3, 2, 1. Just introduce yourself and tell me what you ate for breakfast.
Hey, good morning, Matt. It is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Doing something a little bit different today. I'll tell you about here at the end, but it's Valentine's Day. It's early in the morning. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I can't tell you what I had for breakfast. So yeah. Hey, we're going to talk about 3 ways to deal with your imperfections. Yes, you have imperfections. And on the monitor that I have on my system here, I'm pointing at myself. Yes, I am admitting that I have imperfections. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I have them. Trust me. So number one, I kind of have what I guess I would say that you have to acknowledge what I just did. Acknowledge that you have imperfections, and things. And I don't mean that as a tear yourself down and think that you're worthless or anything like that at all. In fact, you can see the hero inside of yourself, and understand though that all heroes have weaknesses. I mean, even Superman. But if we can acknowledge that we have the imperfections, move on to the place of not, beating ourselves up or anything like that, to seeing the hero in ourselves, that all heroes have imperfections. That's a amazing way to start to kind of deal with those imperfections. And then delegate your weaknesses, fortify your strengths. When we delegate our weaknesses, we can, once we acknowledge them, we can delegate them, right? So we can take our weaknesses and say, hey, Mr. Smith, you have, or Mr. Nelson, or Mrs. Nelson, or Miss Nelson, or whatever, you get the idea, is we can say, hey, this is a weakness of mine, and I really would like you to, take care of this for me, or maybe that's your pastor or whatever. So I think you get the idea. Delegate your weakness. Understand you have it. Delegate it. Give it to somebody else to help you with that weakness. But then fortify your strengths. Really figure out how to. Most of us know and understand our strengths, and so we just have to fortify them, make them more impenetrable, make them stronger. So that those weaknesses are easier to deal with. But then you got to reframe your thoughts in that, acknowledge that you have imperfections, reframe the way that you think about things, different paradigm or whatever. We live in a place right now that, just quite honestly, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. There's just no admission to that imperfection and things. And so we have to reframe our thought and step back and look outside and say, reframe this. And I won't dwell on that anymore, but just rethink things. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Number 2 on the 3 ways, is, there are these 3 ways that I have to, and there's probably, like I've said before, I've picked things up along the way, and I've written notes in my journal and whatever. And so these are things that I've just written down that I've picked up along the way, is that realize this. I wish this could be the first one, but we have to acknowledge that we have weaknesses first. That's super crucial, but realize that you're not a victim. I had one heck of a 6 months 12 years ago, and we'll leave it there at this time. But it was pretty wild. A lot of horrible things that happened. I had to come to that place to realize that I'm just not I'm a victim of a circumstance, but I am not a victim as a person. And just kind of think about that. But you have to overcome those circumstances. You have to make a battle plan once you understand the circumstances and realize that you're there and overcome those circumstances. I know there's a lot of ways to say it, but the way that I say it is that circumstances do not make us who we are. Circumstances, they do reveal who we are. And part of not being a victim is stop blaming. Take responsibility. Stop blaming other people and other things and other whatever for what has happened. We have to take some responsibility so that we can overcome those circumstances. And part of that, realize that you're not a victim, is I think this is extremely important, and I think that this is missed, in my opinion, by a lot of healing processes, and that is interview someone who inspires you. Make a list of questions, say a dozen questions, and call them or see if you can have coffee with them or whatever, and make it realistic. Like, don't, call up someone that you're not going to be able to actually sit down and talk to. I mean, make it a realistic hero so that you can actually interview them. I mean, reach for the stars on it, but it's important to actually interview somebody who does inspire you. Then number 3, you have to take action, especially when your circumstances aren't perfect. We want to wait, and we don't want to start and take that action. We want to just say, and it's going to get better, or it's going to this or whatever else. But hey, take action. You have to do that. And one of the ways by taking action is to really wrap your arms around and give those difficulties a hug, right? Like, just wrap your arms around them, embrace those difficulties, and say, we're in this together. Here we go. And then once you've part of that taking action, you've embraced those difficulties, you've given them a hug, you're bringing them with you, challenging the challenges let me start over. The challenge has been accepted, and you're moving, you're taking that action. Part of that action, in my opinion, is to put some focus into mentoring other people. And it can be a long-term type mentorship via just like this, even. In other words, we have all kinds of ways to FaceTime people, and we can mentor them. Maybe it's mentoring them in sewing. I don't know. I have a buddy that he can, if I needed to learn how to sew, he can mentor me on that, right? But anyway, it's a neat guy. You might know him. He's Tyler on Maddie's Movie Mix, our podcast that we talk about movies. He just has some really neat talents. But just turn your focus onto that. Maybe it's just something. Maybe you're good with finance. Maybe you're good with cars. Maybe you're good with cooking or whatever else. Just mentor somebody. Gets you to take action in that. But then here's key. We know that we have a starting point. We know that we have a place to go and be, and that's going to change levels all the time. So track your progress all the way along, somehow, in some way, whether it be on a calendar or in notes on your phone. I have like 2,500 different notes in my phone. And so I really track a lot of things and a lot of thoughts. So track your progress. And that's just a great way, I think, to deal with our imperfections. Acknowledge that you have them, realize you're not a victim, and then take action, especially when those difficulties are not perfect. So, hey, happy Valentine's Day. Here's what today's change is. I'm not sure if this is going to work, honestly, but my system that I have allows me to have a delay. So I'm delayed about 1 hour and 5 minutes from 6:30. It's 5:25. I'm doing this, and it's going to put it out there on these different channels. So I'm live, but not. I'm actually going to go down and spend the day with my 3 granddaughters today, so that their parents can go with my grandson to a field trip. So I hope everybody has an amazing Friday and a fantastic weekend. I will see you. You will see me Monday morning, 6:30.
You know what I just saw?
Who is this guy?
I call myself Podcast because of my podcast.
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
So it's done. It's done.